I see skies of blue, clouds of white, the bright, blessed day, and the dark, sacred night. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. The colors of the rainbow, so pretty in the sky, are also on the faces of people going by.
Yeah, hi everyone. This is Olatomiwa, and I think for me, I would say that it means learning based on people's local context and realities. So much so, I mean, we've been structured in a way that you have to learn in this particular way. If you're not learning in this particular way, then you're not doing it right. And in the real sense, there is, I mean, right is a relative word that is, I mean, very, very, that is particular to people's context. So when, I mean, we don't learn, when we don't do stuff based on what has been set, by some persons who we may or may not even know, I think this would be like the height of colonial, the decolonizing learning, right, and ourselves and all that we do. Thank you.
Thank you, Tomiwa. Okay, I think we can get started. So welcome everybody to today's Activist Classroom. We're going to be hearing from Manish Jain, co-founder of Shikshinta, the People's Institute for Rethinking Education, and Swaraj University in India, as he delves into the concept of Swaraj, or self-rule. Manish will share his insights on the importance of decolonizing our lives and education systems in order to regenerate our diverse knowledge systems, free our cultural imaginations, and expand our consciousness. He will also share about his experience working with children, youth, and grassroots communities, and the innovative models of unlearning that he has created to address the socio, cultural, environmental, and spiritual crises that we currently face. Manish, I'm sure that I'm speaking on behalf of everyone that we are so excited to hear from you. So without further ado, I'll pass the mic on to you.
Thank you, Mohini. It's so wonderful to be with all of you today. It'd be wonderful if you could, in the chat box, also just put your name and where you're from, just to get a sense of who's in the room, and one thing maybe you love doing in your life. That would be great to just know before I start. And so we'll have about 40 minutes total for the session, Mohini, right now. Is that correct? Okay, so oh, awesome, Ila. I love talking and asking their permission to hug them as well, trees. Lovely, lovely. Thank you, Anna. So as you're chatting in, I'll maybe start. So my own journey with Swaraj. Hey, Frisbee player. Oh my goodness, this is my gang here. Great. So just reading a second who's coming in. Wonderful, all over. So my journey actually has several, to understand this idea of Swaraj has several different dimensions, I think, and I'm still trying to understand it, I think, even at the age of 53. And probably it's a lifelong quest. Even if in our organization, mostly they tell you have a mission and a vision. So all of our work and our movements and our organizations, we don't have any missions or visions. We have questions. So the biggest question is, what is that I started all this work with 25 years ago was, what does Swaraj actually mean in my life, and what can I do about it to create it in the world today? And I'm still with that question every day of my existence, I think. So obviously there's if many of you know, this word Swaraj was first popularized by Gandhi in 1909. He wrote this book, Hind Swaraj. It's probably, I would say, his most radical and profound piece of work. Very few Gandhians in India even want to touch it or talk about it. So I came across that book many years ago, and the questions that Gandhi raised in that were like shook me to the core, and probably gave me the courage, I think, today to walk out of the system. I had tried to explore, I would say, so many people have written about colonialism and all that, and obviously there's neo-colonialism, and what are the institutions and structures of power today in the world that are there. And I basically had been to several of them in my youth when I was your guys' age, whether it was being an investment banker on Wall Street, seeing the whole global financial system, how it operates, or being at Harvard and seeing the whole global knowledge system and how that's structured to work, and being in the UN and World Bank, also having seen how that piece of the puzzle works. So all of these things I started understanding are part of the neo-colonial game. And when I was 28, I became extremely disillusioned and depressed. I was like, man, we're screwed. This game is there. It's still there. It's even worse than what Gandhi talked about. And it's not only that they're doing it to us, we're voluntarily asking for it. We want this slavery, this kind of colonial slavery. So I started on a search to try to understand what Swaraj could actually mean. And so for the first thing I said was Gandhi. And what I think Gandhi, I would look at that book as an invitation to understand that what is the larger game. So like everything we do in our lives, I would say, is a game, right? So there's our organizations, our families, our work. One can actually see them in the sense of game. There's rules, there's values, there's the better games, it's win-win games. The worst games are win-lose games. So Gandhi was trying to invite us to look at, there's a larger game, and the game is not just about getting rid of the British from India in that case, or getting rid of the colonial powers, but actually saying that there's a larger game. And I say to a lot of the young people who come to me, I said, if you want to play the game, if you want to be a player, you need to understand the games first, right? So that was kind of the invitation that Gandhi is giving. And the game of this decolonization he's trying to clear for the world, because everyone's like, get rid of the British, we'll be free and Swaraj will happen. And he's like, no, it's different. It's more deeper than that we need to, more deeper work we have to do. And he used a very interesting thing to describe the game. He used three metaphors: doctors, lawyers, and railroads. And everyone's like, you're crazy. How can you question doctors, lawyers, and railroads? Like that's the British, that's their claim to fame, why they're the biggest civilization, the best civilization in the world, because they have these institutions set up. And so he started saying that, no, doctors actually, this system of medicine they've created is actually taking control away from us over our own health. And his invitation in that is to say, let us think about whether having more and more doctors is creating better health. And let us think about what is our own conception of health. What is our conception of health and well-being? Do we have our own vision of it, besides what, how allopathic medicine has defined it? So one question he's putting forward is, for any kind of freedom movement, any kind of decolonization movement, is what is your conception of health, and how does that happen? The second thing he said, lawyers. So he said more lawyers that are showing up in the world, the less justice there is. This was his claim, that justice for all actually is not there. Lawyers are there, and he was a lawyer himself. He said lawyers are there to defend the rich and powerful, basically, and this game is set up for that, and to keep in place a system of ownership. even the value of ownership. In many cultures around the world, I've seen traditional cultures, there was even no such idea as ownership, like as spiritual seekers, we don't own anything, right? So he was trying to say that this is built on a certain protecting private property, the whole legal system came up. And so he's inviting us to say, what is our conception of justice? What is our idea of social justice actually? This has to be one of the fundamental questions we ask. And the third thing he says is railroads. So he said, railroads are not there to help people. Railroads are there to help, again, certain institutions, certain individuals extract things faster. So part of the extraction economy, he was pointing out that before people could just take whatever they could take in their pockets or on their horses or whatever. And now you have this system which can, all kinds of minerals, natural resources can be extracted. And his fundamental question is, what is technology for? Railroad as being a technology. What is our idea of technology? What is a technology? Later on, a person, Ivan Illich, she used this term convivial technology. What is the technologies that build healthy, harmonious relationships? And what are those that destroy relationships, enslave us? So we need to develop, as part of our decolonization work, an idea of what is the technology? Where does it take away human agency or human potential or human goodness, and where does it enhance it? And the ones that are enhancing it are the kinds of technology models we should pursue. So I think that was part of what he was saying. And the other thing that he was saying was an invitation, I think is how he was living, is when to kind of reconnect to our roots in a very different way. So like nowadays we say, oh, let's connect to our roots, but to really reconnect. And I think he and how do we see them? Because right now we've been in another kind of colonial framework that we've kind of been put in, is that modern versus traditional, this juxtaposition, like, and we're told traditional is the past, it's stagnant, it's fixed. Sometimes when we talk about it, we're accused of over romanticizing.
I think we might have just lost Manish. It looked like his power went off.
It does look like the power went out. We'll wait a couple of minutes.
Yes.
You want to put some music while we wait for him to come back?
Reflect back.
Yeah, or just reflect back, yeah. What have you been hearing so far?
I feel like,
Go ahead.
no, go. I don't know who it was. Okay. I feel like I've been hearing a different side to Gandhiji, which is really interesting. I feel like I was raised on him being a hero and an icon. And then as I've gotten older, I've looked into more of his opinions and more of like, who was he for the liberation of? And was it for all the people of India? Or was it for the people of India who he could relate to, and his relationship to people of other races? And actually, this is really nice because I'm just reminded of, he's a human being, a complex human being, with lots of opinions. And I'm interested to read Hind Swaraj. That's a book I'm putting on my to-read list.
Thanks, Ella. Yeah, I was curious to hear, that, oh, I see Zadok. You unmuted. Yeah. Did you want to share something, Zadok? No. Yeah, I was curious, thinking of these three. I have a similar narrative to you, being raised on Gandhiji. And then trying to unpack that. There's always not a single story. And I'm just wondering, who are those stories of decolonization that you were raised with in your home, wherever it is? Who were those figures that were, oh,
I think I'm on. Hold on.
awesome. Welcome back.
Sorry.
No
I
worries.
guess the powers that be got afraid of us talking about Swaraj, so they cut my electricity.
Fitting, only
Yeah.
fitting.
We
Feel-
were just reflecting back
Let
about
me just-
what we started to hear before you got cut off.
Okay. Yes. Let me try to get into some natural light. Hold on. Can you see me okay? Yes. Okay. So I was just saying that, how we understand our roots, our ancestors, all of those have been tainted by our modern education system. And we are very quick to, this wasn't the case for me, very quick to condemn and throw labels. Oh, this is patriarchal, this is classist, this is this. And we're not able to open up ourselves to a different worldview. We ourselves are, actually, this is part of the colonial mind, is that we're trained to block our deeper connections to flow. And my guru for that was my grandmother, because I couldn't first understand anything she was doing. And so she was and part of the colonialism was I was taught that she was uneducated. All these labels, uneducated, illiterate, backwards, all of these things. And I thought, oh, I'm so educated, I'm the intelligent. And later on, I realized that maybe she's even more intelligent than my Harvard professor. So my wife and I, we joined our village grandmother's university, we call it grandmother's university. And that was part of our unlearning journey. And really to understand, because nowadays decolonization has become such a trendy, fashionable word in academia. And I think they kind of have missed the whole boat. So if we really want to get back to it, we need to get back to our grandmothers, get back to the soil, get back to the trees, Ila, and many things. If we really, otherwise we're just playing around with words. So let me just say a couple of things, and then I have some. We'll have some. I have some questions, and I have some. We'll do a little interaction conversation. Is that okay with everyone? Yeah. So I think for me right now, the question is, what does decolonization, you started with that, mean today? I just wanted to elaborate on that. So one thing I would say that I've realized is whoever controls the definitions, the indicators, they control the game. Does that make sense? So what I've seen over the since Gandhi's time, all of the decolonial movements that have happened, we let somebody else define the indicators and the definitions. And the definitions, I mean, like, what is happiness? What is success? What is a good life? What is progress? What is development? So every time, and this happened, actually, I was part of this, Bhutan had raised this very fundamental question around, challenging the whole Western paradigm of development, saying, what about happiness? And I saw they had invited me there to share about our ideas on education. And in front of me, I saw how quickly they got hammered by the World Bank, saying, you don't have indicators for this, or you don't have indicators. Oh, by the way, we have all these indicators, we'll give them to you. And the whole radical energy of it was dissipated. And so this has happened with several movements I've seen around the world. So we need to reclaim our definitions. And that's why what I was saying earlier about Gandhi, health, justice, I would say nowadays, knowledge, wealth, also power. How do we see this? We need to step out of those definitions we've been conditioned with. And that's the first phase of unlearning. So that's one invitation around this. The second, I think, is around, so where I see colonialism very much alive today is we have a very deep-rooted fear has been put into us. And that fear is much related to separateness and scarcity. So this scarcity is because we are unable to create anything or produce anything. We don't know how our food is coming from, or where our water is coming from, or anything. Our clothes are coming from, or anything. So we've been told that this idea is money. Money is like, in India, there's a term, Lakshmi. I think all of you have heard of Lakshmi. So she's the goddess of wealth. But the colonialism goes so deep today that we equate Lakshmi with money. And this is a very, very profoundly problematic trap we've fallen into. Because real wealth will make you feel abundance, will make you feel like sharing, will make your heart expand. And this money system is making us feel more scarce, more afraid, more alone. And so part of, I think the second part of decolonization is we have to reclaim different notions of wealth and different forms of wealth. So starting with our health, and we start to revalue these: health, our time, our relationships, our sense of community, our connection to the rest of nature, our creativity. These are the kinds of wealth we need to reclaim. And right now, even like, one of the most, I was just somewhere yesterday with this group of aunties, actually, they had invited me, and I was there for a session, and I was like, they're like, oh, we're a housewife only, and we're only a housewife. So this is how deep rooted, again, the whole economic system has devalued much of women's work, much of the caring and nurturing aspects of our society are not at all valued in any kind of wealth. And that's the root of the wealth, that nurturing, that care. I call that gift culture, gift economy and gift culture. And so part of it is that we need to reclaim and reestablish, because otherwise what we are operating with from continuously is this fear and scarcity mindset. And that's the trap that we're in. And so even the things we're trying to do to solve the problems we're in are part of the problem, because that mindset keeps appearing. So unless we start to regenerate within ourselves and within each other a different notion of wealth, where we actually can operate from this spirit of abundance and care and nurturing and love, I don't see. So I would purposely we need to bring more conversations about love into decolonization circles for sure. And the third thing I just want to add is that many of our ways of doing things are also part of the colonialized problem. So the tools we're using, so right now, like we're trained to see the world through Microsoft spreadsheets. And, I was with a bunch of friends who are part of the degrowth movement. So I said, you cannot build a movement on spreadsheets by looking at spreadsheets. A movement has to come from the deepest in human spirits, right? So Zeta, why are you laughing so much?
Because the number of spreadsheets we had to do, this was insane. But at the end, we're all together here. So
we're all together. No, I appreciate that work, but and that's that. But the core of our movement cannot be through Microsoft products and using their tools. We have to reclaim different tools, different ways of doing things, and different notions of power even. So one of the things why I love talking to young people, and why I also get frustrated with young people, and why I consider myself a real young person, is that we need to think and believe more radical. Like I find too many young people, sorry to say, compromising, saying, oh, we need to get this job, we need to fit in the system. Oh, maybe we can change it a little, maybe we can do a little, tweak here or there. But that's not what the world needs. The world needs young people to do much more than tweaking. We need all to dream together, and we need to bring our most radical selves into this. And so I think corporate power, and you have to go and try to capture that. So that's what I tried to do in my youth. It's like, let me go to these power centers, let me see, I'll go and change them. And I'm like, oh my God, these are changing me. I better get out. So I decided to walk out from all of that and said, let's start to create a space where we can, and what I'm saying, like power that's in our grandmothers, we don't think of power there. Or we don't think of power being situated in the with talking with the trees or the river. Or we don't see power being with children, being with children. There's a great joke I have to share with you. What's the definition of a rich person? It's someone who has money, right? That's what it is these days. What is a really rich person? Somebody who has time. What's a really, really rich person? Somebody who has time with children. And so this idea of power, that children, being with children is probably the most important, starts to redefine our notions of power. And also when power consciousness that exists around us. That is part of the, I think, decolonization agenda today. And two other things I just want to say about this redefining the way we work. So one is that I am very skeptical of people who come with utopian plans, because that again is part of this colonial mind, that we can create the ultimate, we can sit wherever we are and think about the whole planet and figure out something. So what we need, and that problem is that it forgets context and relationships. So plan would have that, but it doesn't have, so plans are like maps. So we have all these maps. What education gave us, formal schooling, was maps. But in the maps, we forgot the terrain. And all the terrains, the soils, the water, the forests, the biodiversity, we've forgotten. We're not able to see that anymore with the maps. So part of it is that we need to come out of the maps and start, maybe not let our minds lead us anymore. Our minds are needed, but our hands, our bodies, our ancestral wisdom, the soil, that maybe we need to surrender to some of that to figure out our ways and how we work. And then the other part of that is maybe we don't wait for the master plan, but we start something and we try it out and we iterate it. And we keep prototyping and we keep figuring it out together as we go. And we make lots of room for glorious mistakes to show up, and we don't beat ourselves up for making mistakes. So this is kind of the, and we learn all this again. School that told us you make a mistake, you're supposed to be punished. So this is the most screwed up way of thinking, right? That so this is again where we need to decolonize ourselves. So yes, so I think the one other thing was like, so this is my own edge I'll share with you. So I was very content being, I've been an activist and I still consider myself an activist, but maybe given where the world is right now and the nature, like I think I wouldn't underestimate if we all saying we're all sitting on the Titanic right now, right? The ship is sinking. And so the ways we've been doing activism in the past also don't work anymore. We had a friend here, he did a hunger, Gandhi did a lot of hunger fasts and he was able to create a space for dialogue by doing those. We had a friend a few years ago, he was a very senior person. He was doing a hunger fast for cleaning up the Ganges River and they just let him die. They let him literally die. So the fasting, the insensitivity of the state, market, military nexus is something that has shifted radically, I think, in the last 40, 50 years. And so, so I think this idea of how do we bringing a different energy to play differently, and how do we, so one of the words again, my terms of how we have to work is playfulness. So I find, again, too many of my friends, like everything we're dealing with is serious, and at the same time we have to be playful. We have to bring out the trickster energy, like going right away in front and being beaten down the system is really just stupid right now. We need to bring in all kinds of playful, creative energy and figure out how to even dance with the enemy. So I think that's one of the things I really couldn't understand before with Gandhi, was how do you dance with, how do we bring together people from all sides of the ideological perspective spectrum together? This is a challenge that these days I'm really trying to decolonize it, because it's very easy to label people. They're that, but can be something much more deeper and within them. Can we connect to that? Can we expand our hearts so much? That's my own journey these days. And how do we create platforms where we can, and I think is we have to create the platform. So if you tell me go into a government office and try to do this, I'm like, you're wasting your time, because they control the rules, they control. But I'd say if you guys created a platform here, then you can bring those guys into our game. They come and play with us. We'll set the rules and we want you to play with us. And let's create a container of trust and love where we can play together. But that requires our own inner work, that we don't fall into those traps and triggers that we've been conditioned with. Somebody says, this is one of the things I found with many friends in the US. Somebody says one word and everyone gets triggered and everything shuts down. So this is the inner game we need to play, is how do we expand ourselves to be able to sit with those triggers, not get triggered, keep seeing something much more profound, and keep creating our space for our own game and bringing people and bringing that energy. So that's all I wanted to share. And the last piece, and then I wanted to say, so I guess one question maybe we can ask people here is, what are the blocks and fears that are preventing you from opening up at your own game? Does that make sense? Is that a good one, Zainab?
It is. A lot of things are coming up for me.
Okay. Okay. So should I type it in here? Maybe we can pause here. People can reflect for a moment, a minute or two. And then we can hear a few people, and I'll share a little bit about our stuff on education, how we're trying to do that. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. So please take a moment and reflect. Take a deep breath. I'll take one also, since I'm waiting for the light to come back still.
Just to repeat Manish's question, so what are the blocks and fears you have in creating your own game?
Yeah,
I
or
can
which
retype.
prevents us from creating our own game. Yes. Thank you, Mohini.
I see Tumiwa put in the chat.
Yes. Do you want to read those, Mohini? Can you do that?
Yes. For me, so Tumiwa said, for me it's self-doubt and doubt that people are willing to show up in a system that pushes the margins. Let's see. I'm losing your question. That pushes the margins to self-sacrifice. And then you said, questioning ourselves. Am I thinking right? Am I feeling right? Gushla said, for me, it would be the fear of offending people due to miscommunication or a mistake I didn't intend to make. Yes. Ela said, feeling of not enoughness, getting stuck in the depths of scarcity. Monica says, not being aware enough to make the game, lack of motivation. feeling that your contributions don't count.
Hmm.
The voice that says I'm not doing enough, the problem is so big and I'm too small. Wow. I think these are these emotions that we're all feeling are so deeply felt, and it's mutual in a sense. Hila says, knowing these things and not feeling them, the body/mind disconnect. Z and Val, which I see it says to me, doing work that isn't valued by the mainstream system creates a feeling over time that I am not valuable.
Hmm.
Eula says being in spaces where people talk the talk and don't walk. It is very disheartening. Definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Influences from the mainstream when you end up giving up authenticity in order to be accepted. I identify with those expressing self-doubt. I spent many years being quiet and now I don't care. I think it's awesome that this space is intergenerational because these feelings are, they felt across all spaces.
Yes, this is amazing list. Very, very powerful. Thank you all for sharing. Is there a few more? We can take one more minute, maybe. And as you're reading this with us, I'd like to invite you to kind of maybe feel in and try to see all of this together and what it means to you. Like look at all of these things, each one of them, and then look at it together. And what gets opened up for you seeing this list.
Yes, Ela, writing this feels powerful, a reminder that alone is a lie. These are all so beautiful. I feel grateful to be in an environment where we can all be vulnerable like this.
Yes.
Okay, I'll read a few more. From Anna, to address a non-heady way and invite into a playful space can be received too vulnerable and discomfortable for some. And I experience colleges and also sometimes my students. Let's see. Colleagues, I think, and sometimes my students not wanting to attend. And then I feel vulnerable and become insecure. And I can feel like I just have to stick to the system.
I think there's one more. Do you want to read that, Moini? Did you see that? Ela just wrote something.
Yes, I think the feeling of urgency is a draw too, especially in activist spaces. We end up just repeating the system. Yes, definitely.
Yeah, so let's, I just want to express my deep appreciation for all the sharing, and let's just sit with all of this for a moment. And maybe sit with the idea that this is one reality, but the possibilities of Swaraj maybe open up many other realities also.
Manish, can I ask you, how do you
Yes?
address your fears and doubt? You know, what advice do you have for proving them? Because as much as we know them as doubt, and we can sometimes create space, how do we create that space so that we can be, in Udbayut, we call it conscious activists. We don't activism to be reactive all the time. And so actually taking that space for self-rule so that we can see the fears and self-doubt and not be ruled by them.
Yes, exactly. So that's part of why I asked this, is that once we see them and we know we're not alone in them, that this is, and we can actually even see how, you know, if we go a little, if we had more time, we can go deeper and see how these fears and doubts are being cultivated by the system. You know, interesting thing is that, so Gandhi used this term, this is a Shaitani Vyavastha. So Shaitani means satanic. And I was like, I read it the first time, I'm like, what? This is like a little bit extreme, like calling something satanic. Then I was like thinking, well, why did he use this? He's a lawyer, he knows his words. Why would he call them? So I said, a system that is actually designed, or any system, what he's trying to say, I think, is that's designed to disconnect us from our inner voice, from our deepest self, from our own power, from our own, you know, divine energy, and to tell us you can't learn on your own without the system, you can't heal on your own without the system, you can't you can't even make friends on your own. Like people go, I love school. Why? Because we made friends there. I'm like, what? You can't make friends without a school. Oh my God. So that that we can start to come up and start to see the roots of this, that, where is this coming from? And so that's one thing that has given me courage. Obviously, giving lots of hugs also gives me a lot of courage. And I used to be like, I'd get called to places. They're like, we want you to come, and somebody mentioned schooling the world. They're like, come and like shake up the whole room and get everyone pissed off and, shake their worldviews and everything. And I do that. And they're like, okay, I'll do that. And then people would be like so disrupted, and like no one would talk to me for the rest of the conference. They'd be like, this guy is nuts, whatever. So I'd feel all alone. I'm like, I came here to connect to people and make friends and all of that. So then I just started, let me be a little more playful. Let me start to hug people. Let me say that, still hold whatever I want to say, but do it with a different energy in a different way. And so that's been, and then I think, these things, like particularly like what Ela said, is this, we can see the traps. Like when people are trying to say it's urgent, that's the time where we need to slow down and say, no, well, let's take our time to really, because this is a major game that's being played all over the world. It's like, it's urgent. And then and it's happening particularly within Bio. My brother Bio wrote, it's very nice. Yes, I was just with him day before yesterday at his house with his family. So thank you for bringing him into the circle as well. So but not falling into this. I mean, one can start, I guess you start, for me, being around this, you can start to see the trap. So somebody starts pushing and saying it's urgent, and that just takes away our power and our space and our ability to actually reimagine. And so we need to maybe respect that urgency, but also saying that, wait a second, if we really want to go deeper, we want to do some, not just repeat the same thing, then we need to create proper time. And that's something then, is worth fighting for, that proper time, space, and resources. Oftentimes I'm feeling like these days, people like, do this. Like, no, I need proper time. We need to have proper space for it. We need to put resources in it. Then I'll come and work with you on it. Otherwise, I'm not going to keep going into these things, which I know they won't be, there's not a proper, like when you're growing, if you're trying to grow vegetables, then you need the proper soil for that. You need the proper water. If you don't have those, and then so we actually as activists keep compromising many things, and we need to kind of open up more space to actually saying this is what we really want, to make this a fertile ground for us to actually co-create something. And usually it's getting pushed into other people's games. Like, so for example, this is one of my pet peeves, is this whole SDGs nonsense that's going on, right? So like, that's somebody else, some random dude sat around and did this, and now like they're telling all the young people, do the SDGs, promote the SDGs. And I think the thing is, it's fine. I mean, those are all issues, but what's missing in that, and this is where it comes back to Swaraj, wherever we ask, we have to deal with the immediate. At the same time, we need to create space to ask, what are the root level questions? What's the roots of these things? Those are all just symptoms. Like, you're making a list of symptoms and say, okay, we have cancer, but we have a little broken pinky, so let's try to put an SDG bandage on that. And we have this, and let's put a little bandage here. So I think this is one thing I would share with the Swaraj conversation, wherever we are. Let's keep asking these questions of what's at the roots of this. Invite more people into these root level conversations is another thing. And then, at least when I walked out of the system and started this work, I had this feeling of, this is not going to only happen in my generation. So this is a longer conversation, Abraham. I would invite you maybe not to say the SDGs goal, but what is maybe a longer conversation into what's the real agenda of the SDGs. That's where, what is the hidden agenda of the SDGs is one worth asking more. What was it? I was just saying something else before I read this. This is so this idea of inviting people into these root conversations is very critical. And when I started the work that we did, and I'm like, okay, we need to radically. So my basic feeling with one of the roots is the education system, what we call factory schooling, or well, if I paraphrase Gandhi, satanic schooling, so, which really you can see how it tries to cut us from our creativity, our sense of inner voice. We don't trust ourselves. Like a lot of these reflections we all have. Am I good enough? Can I trust myself? Do I know enough? And what if we can never know enough? What if we accept that we'll never know enough? And that's why we need to keep setting up places to iterate and practice. And this is one of my favorite questions these days. How many books do I need to read to learn swimming, to know enough about swimming? You're never going to know until you get in the water and you start trying it, splashing around. You'll never know what the water is, what it is to swim. And so trying to create a different container for us to get into the water is very critical at this time. And I think we're being pushed into other people's waters, and then we don't feel equipped, or we don't feel like, when I was saying earlier, the definition. So when we start to say, okay, I can tell you very clearly, my mother still does not like what I do. She still doesn't understand it. She's like, what are you doing? Your friends are making millions of dollars. Why are you wasting yourself talking about, reimagining education and all of this stuff? But, and it used to trouble me. And I'm like, well, I understood that we have different definitions of what is success and what's the purpose of life and as soon as I kind of opened that and invite her, and then what really pisses her off, to tell you, she's like, why are you doing this? It's not. I'm like, I learned it all from you. That really pisses her off. Like, you inspired me to do all of this. So then she doesn't know what to say. So I think, the fact that we're all here, sometimes we're very critical of our parents, but sometimes, some of the seeds of whatever radicalness, whatever ways we experience and show up in the world, it comes from all of these ancestral seeds are within us also. So yes, so there's questions coming. Let me just say one more. How much time do we have?
Actually, we are kind of out of time. If we want to give a few minutes break before our panel with youth educators. So it's a panel of youth educators who are challenging education systems.
What do you guys? There's a question about the SDGs. I baited you guys. I mean, Asamu.
you poked the bear, which I think is a conversation that we had in this community. So I'm glad that it got surfaced, and I think we are going to have to actually really chat about it.
I'd love to have a session with you guys around that for sure. But go and read the fine print is my suggestion, which says shifting to public-private partnerships. So the end of the day is to hand over more and more power and control to global corporations and justify that through the SDGs. That's and also, if you look at, I'll send you a couple of links. So it's crazy. We think that development, one of the reasons I resigned from the UN and all of this is, so I came across these kinds of crazy numbers. So 120 billion dollars goes every year around that from global north to global south in aid, and 1.3 trillion goes the other way from the south to the north. So basically, we are still colonized and developing the global north. A lot of our resources, the taxes, everything keeps going to the global north. Debt. So it's really a crazy thing to understand the development game, and I'd love to share. And the other thing I just want to say is that really my work is really around now helping to reimagine the education system. So I would say very clearly that the system isn't broke, the current system, it's working. It's doing what it is designed to make us into slaves, and it's doing that very in many ways, can disconnect us from ourselves, disconnect us from our land and our local cultures, our local languages, our local mountains, and make us into really good, stupid consumers, basically. So we need to reimagine. And so we started this Ecoversities Alliance where we're inviting people. I even tell young people, get 5 friends of yours together and you can start your own university. And you can define what knowledge is and what it means to learn and how you want to learn. And so I can share stuff around that resource of how to do that. And one of the things I just wanted to share is we do lots of crazy unlearning kinds of adventures. So Gandhi, besides Hind Swaraj, the thing he left us with is this idea, his autobiography, which I love the name, My Experiments with Truth. So I invite you all, This is what Swaraj is, that there is no one truth out there. We need to enter into our own little experiments within ourselves, with our friends, with our parents and our communities, with nature, and slowly, and these little micro things. So one experiment we developed is called the bicycle yatra, and yatra means pilgrimage. So we go for 1 week, and this is to look at the fear of money that has been so deeply put into us, the scarcity in money, and how am I going to live, how I'm going to survive, what's the future. All of it is around that. So we go for a week. Nobody has any money in their pocket. Nobody has any food with them. Nobody has any medicine. Nobody has any phone. And there is absolutely no plan whatsoever of where we're going to stay, what we're going to do, what's going to happen. It's total surrender to Swaraj, to the larger intelligence of the universe, and it's a very profound journey that people go through, and you realize all the things that I'm saying. It's not theoretical. It becomes very much alive. So we've created hundreds, if not thousands, of these little kinds of experiments with truth that we invite people into. First, I'm always the first guinea pig for everything. So, and then we invite more and more friends to let's play together. Another one we've done is like we create our own money. So this whole thing of like, can we, within an hour, we can create money. Like it's a shamanic act of money is an energy, right? So we can create that. So we can start to understand how that whole game really works on an energy shamanic level and things. So there's many things. So I will invite you to continue the conversation. It's been short but sweet, and I hope sweet for you as well, but wonderful to see all your beautiful smiling faces. And I invite you all to India if you want to learn more.
Thank you so much, Manish. I think we all want to come to your grandmother's university. I think we need to make that a goal. Yes, I think I'm rendered speechless, which isn't great because I'm the sessions conductor, but the wisdom you've shared has been inspirational for us all, and I think any resources that you can send us would be incredible, can definitely be added to our library of resources. Yes. So since it is already 2, maybe, we can close out this session. Thank you so much. I hope we can have more
request. In the spirit of playfulness, invite you all to take a deep breath and laugh as loud as you can and as crazy as you can. Let me hear your bad person laughing, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
That's a great place to segue.